It's okay. Awesome. So welcome to our sacred space here, you guys. I'm so honored to be sharing room with you and some time with you because I know it is a gift, a sacred gift to give ourselves to actually come together and think about wellness and how we can be better serving ourselves. So congratulations on committing and being here and saying yes to yourself. So just a little bit of housekeeping that I've learned over the experiences. If you would like to change how you view the screen, if you're new to Zoom, then that button at the top right hand of your screen, you can play around with that and see what you prefer. And if you'd like to rename yourself, because we are recording, then feel free to rename yourself. There's the three dots in the right upper corner of your screen, and then just select rename, and you could do that. And then just to cover our bases, by attending this session with me, just note that I'm recording it and I plan to sell the replay on my website or use portions of it to encourage people to say yes to their own wellness. So by staying on the call, you're just agreeing to be recorded in that fashion. And then also by attending the session with me, we're just assuming all the benefits and risks of integrating the information provided into your life. So just know that any suggestions provided by me during the event are not meant to replace any medical advice. Some of them will be my opinions, some of it will be research, but also if some of us are sharing some of our own chat comments or things like that, that I am not endorsing or taking responsibility for the statements made by us as participants. So there's the legal stuff, the co-professional. All right, guys. So today we get to talk about slowing down. And so I'm curious if you guys write in the chat, when you hear that slowing down could help you speed up, what comes to your mind? And the chat button is going to be on your lower, maybe right on the bottom of your screen. Not making as many mistakes. I love that. Slowing down for sure. How many times do I stub my toe when I'm moving too fast? Just that alone. Using intuition instead of lists. Absolutely. And slowing down helps you ground and recalibrate so that you can be more clear and effective. Yes, I have my PhD students here. Thank you guys so much. Absolutely. You guys are sniffing down the trail, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So making fewer mistakes, being more efficient, using intuition and accessing like higher intelligence so that we can problem solve better and just have more access to creativity. And then absolutely recalibrating. When we recalibrate your nervous system, so much more is available, not just efficiency or productivity, but also healing, digestion, and longevity so that we can live longer and actually feel good as we live longer. Who's on board? Yay! Awesome. Okay, guys. So here we go. We're going to move forward. And I would encourage you to ask questions in the chat. This will be useful for anybody that's watching this in the future. So don't hesitate to voice and even interrupt me if you are confused, because this is perfectly imperfect and doesn't have to be any kind of special way. All right. So for anybody who is unfamiliar with Jen Sprague, I'm going to just share a little bit about my story, how I got here, so that we can all kind of understand where I'm coming from, the context. So I'm Jen Sprague, and I came to health coaching through my own journey towards wellness and vitality, and the journey continues. So just so you know, even as we immerse ourselves in this work, it's an ongoing practice and process. And I have my own ups and downs, which if we work together, you will learn from my own ups and downs too. Okay, so I got through some health crises by actually doing this, slowing down. And I didn't realize that that's what I was doing when I found strategies and tips to actually feel better and let my body start to heal. So when we think about our wellness, see if any of this kind of story relates to you, or can think of somebody that maybe is a similar situation or maybe a time in your life. So picture this. 21-year-old Jen Sprague is released from college. She got a bio degree, didn't know what to do with it. So she became a teacher. Yay, teachers are angels. Thank you, teachers. And I dove right into like a boot camp of sorts, teaching in the inner city in Detroit. And I did that for 5 years. And when I was there, a couple of things happened. I got sick a lot. We can all imagine. And I got strep throat. And I took antibiotics regularly for a few years in a row for that. And that's not something my body was introduced to much as a child. So antibiotics, one piece of the puzzle. And then the stress, which I didn't know I was under stress. Because anybody relate to that? You didn't know you're actually under stress, but then you find out later, like, holy crap, that was really stressful. Well, it took many practitioners to convince me that I was stressed, might have like depression or anxiety. And I was like, I'm this happy person, right? So we can kid to ourselves all day long, but the body will not lie. And that's one of the tenets of my work, is like tuning into the body to help get some messages as to what direction I need to go. And if my intuition is not yet aligned with what's going on. So my body was screaming at me with digestive problems, foggy brain, feeling like I lost like 10 IQ points as a teacher. It eventually led to autoimmune condition. Like it's called urticaria, and I had a genetic propensity for it, but I had a flare up of it, and it was quite dramatic. And I don't know, some of you I know me then, but I had all these hives. I had to take off my shirt and like sit in front of the space heater because it was cold outside. It was the winter time, and I missed like a week of school, and I couldn't figure out, using all the creams and all the things, what was going on or why this was happening. So there was my body super inflamed, and inflammation is a result of moving too fast, being stressed out. And that not only leads to chronic conditions like autoimmune situations, but that's a leading cause of things like cancer, cardiovascular disease. What else? I've got a list here for us. The common cold, even. And if we have COVID right now, then that's going to be exacerbated by any stress that we're feeling. The gastrointestinal disease that I had, depression, other mental conditions, as well as insomnia. So moving too fast. Anybody experience, what are your experiences of moving too fast to any of those conditions or anything that I just described? What have you experienced?
Are we putting this in the chat?
Yes, a good idea. Let's put it in the chat, or you can say it out loud if you desire.
I think digestion issues.
Digestion issues. I so relate.
IBS.
IBS, absolutely.
Panic attacks.
Panic attacks.
Insomnia and anger, reactions to things, emotional reactions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that brings us into like the collateral damage. Fatigue. Yes. Thank you, Jane. Fatigue. Ooh. So when we think about those things together, and we think about how many people we know who has experienced any of that, it's an epidemic in our culture, and it's no accident, right? I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, and I was kind of the picture of health. And my brother would say, you're the sickest healthy person I know, because I was all into being healthy physically and eating correctly and trying to be active. So, and I had a biology degree, so I kind of understood like what was going on in the body as far as like, why am I sick? I couldn't understand it until I made the connection that it was stress. And then sweet younger Jenny thought that she could just not be stressed anymore now that she realized what the problem was. And so she spent a couple more years teaching. And recognizing that that's not as easy as it sounds. There's no switch to flip to just say, okay, now I'm not going to be stressed. And that, everybody, is why I became a coach. So figuring out that I did not have the skills to change on my own. I was not equipped. Culture, training, all that college did not equip me for actually dealing with what was going on inside my body. So then I was not functioning outside of my body. I was not the best teacher I could have been. I was not thinking properly or problem solving well. And I certainly wasn't happy, right? So at the end of the day, I was exhausted, that fatigue, and it made it awful. Yay, there's our Julie. So when we think about moving forward and giving some grace to ourselves because we weren't trained, but now we are the generation that's changing that so that we can learn how to be calm, how to read our body, how to adjust, and how to create a space. Just like Shannon was mentioning, like being angry and reactionary, how to create a space in between, like what's happening from the outside world and how I respond to it. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity as we see that you get to be free of the chains that come from being stressed and moving too fast and getting myself in that pattern. Because even after being a coach, the people that have worked with me know that, like, my first year of coaching, I got myself right back into the pattern that I was in as a teacher, doing way too much. My schedule was all full from morning till night, and I got into that state of like, hey, we've been here before, this like mayday, pump the brakes. Took me only 6 months to get into that situation, and then it took the next 6 months to unravel, letting go of obligations, having trust and faith, which is a big piece of it, and trial and error. And I'm still in this space of figuring out what my equation looks like for myself at this time in my life, knowing that as we change and age, our equation is going to change too. So we get to be flexible with how we slow down and what it looks like. So other things that happen, like think about your relationships. When we are moving too fast, how are our relationships affected? Anybody? You can just say it out loud or type it.
We don't listen, not paying attention as closely to the interactions and what's actually going on with other people around us.
Absolutely. So not being present to our loved ones, right? Miss out on cues from others. I love that. When we're not actually focused on the person in front of us, we might miss that little inflection point when they might have cringed or something like that could give us an insight into how to nurture that person in front of us. What else? How does it affect your relationships? Welcome, Nisha. Awesome. I can say from my own experience, absolutely, my patience level decreases and I become a little bit more judgmental. And then that's a lack of compassion. And then it feels like I'm operating out of protection for myself or fear. And so it can really snowball into something undesirable. Yes, feeling isolated. Absolutely. So how do we feel? How are we going to use slowing down? Like if relationships was the only thing that was affected by slowing down, then I would say that was worth it right there, because relationships in our lives are arguably the most important thing. And relationships are the number one factor for longevity too. So we might as well slow down so we can be present for our loved ones. That everybody wins. Then also, you guys thinking about efficiency or productivity. When I'm moving too fast, how is my productivity affected? Am I able to problem solve and be creative? That's affected. Thinking about that for yourselves. Any examples of how your productivity was affected because you're moving too fast, too stressed out, or ways that you notice your problem solving abilities changed?
I think sometimes you often have to redo something you did. If you're moving too fast and not paying attention, you produce a certain result and it's often not your best work, or you have to go back and redo it or fix it when slowing down in the first place may have prevented that.
I love that. Thank you. Absolutely. Anybody been there? Had to redo stuff?
Yeah.
Oh my. Absolutely.
I think also there's been a lot of science about multitasking and taking breaks and your effectiveness if you do and if you don't, and this and that and the other. And the bottom line is our culture teaches us to multitask. That means you're smart, you're able to do many things at one time, and women are really good at that. However, when you start to pay attention to your own wellness, as you mentioned, and you become aware of whether you're content and happy and enjoying life and giving it your best, you'll learn that in awareness, you just do one thing at a time and you focus everything you have, because in order to do your best in the moment, that's what you have to do. And that's the funnest, easiest way to do it. Then you lose track of time. Then all kinds of things come in and you do this, you do that, you do this. And it's just like magical. At the end of the day, it's like, oh, look at this, and you don't even notice it because you're in the present at this moment,
Mhm.
saying thank you for this and that and the other. And oh my God, that's really good. So you notice things when you're present and you're aware, and you don't give a rat's ass about what everyone else says.
Awesome. Yes.
So you'll have to edit that.
There will be no editing. I appreciate that. I love it. Now
Sorry.
we've broken the seal and now we can move forward, everybody. You're all free to speak freely, but absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. And I love how you even mentioned at the beginning, women are really good at multitasking. I heard that from a woman who teaches us about feminine energy and masculine energy, and that's actually true. Like, women are actually pretty good at multitasking, whereas men are better at focusing on one thing at a time and moving forward linearly. But that takes a toll on the woman, right? So how many women taking care of everybody else, doing a million things, balancing this on one toe, and then their life starts to, they end up with their shirt off in front of the heater with hives because multitasking hijacked the body. So thank you for that. Absolutely. So as we think about not only the chronic diseases that are resulting from stress and moving too fast and feeling all that pressure, but also the relationships, our productivity, are able to be creative, enjoyment in the moment, right? That's the biggest motivating factor for me. And if I think about my values as a practitioner, joy is at the top. I've got joy, excellence, growth, passion, connection with people, faith, but joy is at the top. If we're not enjoying life, then why, right? I don't want to say why are we here, but that's the goal. It's like like as children, we knew how to be joyful and we didn't have any judgment. And then we grew, and there's part of our brain, which we could talk about in another seminar, that takes over and kind of deflates the joy and adds judgment because of safety. And then we just continue down that path and we're doing things we're obligated to do, and we've lost the passion or the joy. So that's the main motivator for Jen Sprague, and maybe for you guys too. I'm curious, what are your motivators for being here to learn about how slowing down is beneficial for you? You can chat it or you can say it. What is your main motivating factor for slowing down? Oh, and I see Jane wrote something. May take the easiest path and not give our voltage. Wonderful, Jane. So moving too fast, we might take that easiest reflexive pathway without weighing the options and seeing what other valuable quality opportunities are there. Love that. Needed a reminder? Thank you. Me too. That's why this is the first one in our webinar series. It's my favorite topic.
My motivation for coming, Coach Jenny, as you know, is I've spent a good handful of years, probably a solid 5 years, just really battling anxiety, much of which was a result of, attempting to do all the things all the time, never slowing down, juggling things on one toe, as you said. And it's the price I paid was massive anxiety, and learning to slow down and do all of the things that you're talking about has been very critical in my ability to manage that. And I have a much better handle on it over the past several months. And I find that it's the days that I revert back into that, not slowing down crazy stage, that it creeps back up. So I think constant reminders, we can never be learning it enough or being reminded of it enough.
Thank you so much for sharing. That I think is, as we think about the epidemic of moving too fast or being stressed out, the anxiety piece is something that when I was young, I don't know about you guys, the anxiety word was not in the vocabulary used in my circle. I didn't really know about that word very much. I knew the word, but people weren't using that to describe themselves. And then when I became a teacher, that's the state that I was in all day long. I didn't realize it. And then when I did realize it, then I was like, oh yes, I have this all day long. And my students started to miss school chronically because of anxiety and or depression. And that was not something that was present at the beginning of my teaching career. So over that 15-year span of teaching, I think that was an interesting piece, like to help me as a coach recognize that this is something that our culture has accidentally collateral damage created, and we get to crawl out of it, and we do it together. So thank you for reminding, the constant reminders, being there, sharing together, creating a network of people around you who are who see the value of, it's not just achievement based. That's not where I get my worthiness. So awesome. Thank you. All right, you guys, so aligned. And I'm going to start sharing some slides. So I love that science teacher in me will always be excited about diagrams and graphs. So we're going to use some of those. I'm a visual learner too, and maybe you could be. So I'm going to start slideshow from this current slide, and then we'll share. So as we think about the time that you're spending here, I want you to create an intention for yourself about, what you'd like to get out of it moving forward until we complete today. But this is a big one for me. So I just actually saw this today, which is obviously no coincidence. This is one of those beautiful synchronicities. It is indeed a radical act of love just to sit down and be quiet for a time by yourself. And that's from Jon Kabat-Zinn. He's a mindfulness master, probably the father, I'd say, of mindfulness. He's done a lot of studies at Johns Hopkins, and he's created an 8-week program with so much research and so significant results for people recovering by doing mindfulness practices over a 6-week period. So it's amazing. And that's what I'm caring about. So when we think about moving forward in your mind, now you have whatever it is that you're caring most about. I'm going to see if that helps. So our mind and body are connected. Our emotions affect our physical state and vice versa. The energy we experience is influenced by our emotions, thoughts, as well as our physical state. So when we think about how our mind and body are connected, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like to me that a result of moving too fast is a disconnection between my mind and my body. My body will be telling me messages when I was a teacher throughout the day, even going to the bathroom, right? That resulted in a whole nother medical issue of not going to the bathroom. My brain finally stopped trying to communicate, and I would just, okay, guys, I have to go to the bathroom right now. And that changed my life. And I think that might have been one of the things that really got my attention, because I literally couldn't drive home without stopping to go to the bathroom. If that urge was there, it was coming. So, and I was in my, mid 30s. So that's my experience. And as we think about reconnecting to our physical body, that's where the value is going to come from. Okay. Moving forward. Interpretation of reality. So this is going to be one of the keys. I'm starting with our mental space, and then we're going to move into strategies, like why it is that we get stressed and how it's affecting our body. But I just wanted to start here. Interpretation of reality changes our experience of that reality. So it's another reminder that what goes on outside of me is out of my control, but what goes on inside of me, I have insight into that. And if I'm tuning in, I can control that. And that's where practice comes in. So that's one of the main things. This is where I start with clients, is it's generally my frame of view. Like, what lens am I seeing the world through? Am I seeing it through an empowered lens where I have agency and I can affect my state? I can affect how I feel in my body. I can slow myself down on purpose. Or am I affected by the outside to a degree where I'm living out of a state of fear or lack or scarcity, and that's leading to anxiety and stress? So we get to learn how to consciously change our state, and then we get to teach those around us, because we are changing the culture. Okay, so emotions are messengers. One of the most beautiful things, we think about negative emotions. We don't want to have negative emotions. We just want to be happy all the time. However, all emotions are aspects of our guidance system. So if I'm having a negative emotion, that's a cue, that's an opportunity, that's a good thing. Okay, I have a negative emotion. I get to pause and ask myself, what's the message from that emotion? And if I can hear the message or understand the message in that moment, that might require some action I need to take. Or it might just be an understanding, like, oh, I'm feeling hurt from that comment that somebody made yesterday. Am I able to let it go right now? Or do I need to have a conversation? Do I need to do some inner work? That allows us to take back control over the direction that I'm headed. Because what's going to happen if I stay in that negative state or I try to shove it down? What are your experiences? When you guys have you ever tried to not have negative emotions or try to shove them down? Go ahead, Shannon.
Okay, I have a real recent one. So I have a cat that was 20 years old and she was really in sad straits. So I knew I had to put her down. So when I made that decision last Thursday and I made the appointment, I cried all that night. And the next day I was like devastated because I knew what was happening on Monday and I only had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with her. And then I pretty quickly in the morning thought, wait a minute. Why am I making myself suffer during these next 3 days for something that's not going to happen till Monday? And this is my time with her. This is my time.
Mm.
So I had to bring my energy back from Monday, the future, which was just causing nothing but suffering, and bring it back to Chloe and myself and this weekend that we had together and the time we had together and the gift we were sharing of understanding where she was in life and releasing her from that with love. So I learned, I fell back into that old habit of letting something else create all of these horrible emotions and suffering instead of changing my perception, bringing my energy back to the present moment, and being in love with my cat. It was just perception. That's all it was. And awareness. Okay.
Thank you.
But it was a great reminder. It made such a difference.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
That's one of the beautiful. I was chatting with one of my younger clients as I work with adolescents too yesterday, and it was about this idea of feeling pain, but then choosing to feel suffering or not. So we understand that we're going to encounter pain by living on the planet, but whether or not we suffer because of it is actually under our control, and it's really dependent on our perception. And that's perfect example, Shannon. Thank you so much. And my condolences. I knew Chloe very well, and she was a magical cat. Yeah, and she still is. But yes, thank you. I'm so thankful that you were able to have that quality time and that like slowing down. Like, what an example of slowing down. You took the time over the weekend to be with her, you cleared your schedule, and you were present. And it makes me want to be that way with my cat all the time now. So awesome. Anybody else experience they know that when they changed their perception, it really changed the way they felt in their body or their ability to move forward?
I would say that I wrote in the chat, there's a power in the pause. I think that when I'm moving fast, which I often am, I am less patient. I'm more quickly triggered. I'm going to respond in a very reactive way. I'm not really going to listen for the message. I'm just, I'm not going to hear what's underneath it. I'm just going to hear somebody needs something or somebody didn't do something, and that's slowing me down. So I'm going to get triggered. Recalibrating enough to allow yourself just even the slightest bit of pause, I've learned recently has served me well, because when I pause and slow down, I am not as triggered. When someone says something, I'm not as reactive about it. I simply take it for what it is. And they're just, maybe they're just asking a question, or maybe it's sometimes so simple how we receive something when we're moving too fast. So I think there's power in pausing long enough to really hear what's going on.
Thank you. I think that's very well articulated, and I don't need to say anything else. Awesome. So as you guys think about the ways in your life in which it has served you to slow down, because I know there are times in your life when you did do that intuitively, you allowed yourself to slow down, and you could tell that there was a change or a shift in your experience, versus the times when we just bulldoze through and I just like, I'm getting this thing finished no matter what, and then the collateral damage that comes with that choice. Sometimes I still choose that, and that's okay. And I understand, like, oh, I think that collateral damage was or was not worth that decision. And so then I can move forward with even more evidence. And that's the beauty of life, I think, in some regards, which is going to bring us on to this next little segment. So I'll share my screen. All right. I can probably current slide before I share. Yeah, great. So maybe that didn't work. Okay, so this was very profound to me. We weren't built to maintain this level of stress and hypervigilance and hyperarousal for this length of time. And I was referring to COVID in 2021, but I think that it pertains to a chunk of our time. I don't know when it started. I'm sure I probably wasn't alive yet, but just this idea that we're driven by achievement or expectations that may not be inside of us. And the result is the diseases or conditions or lack of enjoyment in life because we've been trying to maintain a level of stress and it's been not possible. So we can choose. As we think about ways to remind ourselves how to move forward and have those little shifts, it could just be something as simple as I'm going to adopt one of these views today. And you might have your own. So some of these are going to be very familiar to you. Just finishing up Heartcore Leadership, definitely exposed to some beautiful reframes. And these are some of my faves. 100% is possible 100% of the time. And it might look different. So how do I get to shift in order to create the results I want? Because it is possible. And what's best for me is best for everyone. That one was something that developed, I don't know if I ever heard it, but early on in my coaching career, that one I must have absorbed somewhere. And it has been the absolute basis and permission for boundary creating, for saying no, or letting go of something that doesn't serve you anymore. And that one for me has been a game changer, a life changer for my clients, probably the most. If it's to be, it's up to me. So that's taking responsibility for what we do have control over, and then being able to shift, pivot when things out of our control occur. I'm willing to give up what I have for what I want. That is super valuable. If I'm putting a lot of stock into, let's say, having my night free where I can rest versus having a mindfulness practice, am I willing to give up a couple hours on the couch in front of Netflix to go to the yoga class, right? So both of them can be a way to turn off the brain, but which one's going to give more dividends? And am I willing to give up my TV time to exercise a part of my brain that will suit me in the next day? And I can get out of psychological assessment and into committed action. That's where we get out of our fear and into our empowerment. And we can talk about more of that later. Okay, so this is one of my favorite things when I get to connect science to kind of spirituality or emotions or just the bigger picture. When we think about feeling good, it does create a signature, a chemical signature in your body. So different emotions are creating different little hormone cocktails that are going to result in how your body feels and how your cells respond to you. So as we're thinking about emotions, which are leading to some physiological changes, if I am able to shift my perception and then maybe move out of fear and into love, or out of fear and into trust, then it feels good. Dopamine is released when we're happy, but it turns on our learning path in the brain too. So not only is it good to feel happy, but then I have access to larger, abilities. And that's the beautiful thing. Like, how do I get a hold of creativity? How does problem solving improve when I slow down? Well, it's physical and it's chemical, and it's also spiritual in my understanding and my perception and my experience. So now we get to do some learning. This is something familiar probably to you guys. Some of you might be in this information a lot. Some of this might be review from high school or something, but this is it, autonomic nervous system. So slowing down, you can obviously see which one represents slowing down, and they relate to different parts of our autonomic system, which have those chemical signatures. So the sympathetic nervous system, S for sympathetic, I think of S for stress. That's when I am moving too fast. I'm in a panic mode or I have anxiety. But look at what happens. The digestion is shutting down, cortisol is released, and our senses heighten, our focus narrows. And when our focus narrows, it's like having blinders on. Do you have access to creativity when your focus narrows? Probably less, right? And so this is huge. Just when I saw this, because some of us, not all of us, need like evidence in order to believe something or to be enrolled in something. And I'm kind of one of those. And so here's my scientific evidence. When we slow down, we have all of the physical things which affect our physical state, but also the broader focus sets in. That's what I'm more concerned about in my life now. Like, yes, I'm so thankful that my body is going to be healthier. It's going to have an opportunity to heal. This is the state where healing can occur. Because when we're stressed in the sympathetic state, the immune system is also docked energy. So the digestion and immune system are dampened or decreased or turned off. That's why we get sick, like after a really stressful period. So awesome. And then I have this, I love this diagram, the mind body response during meditation and stress. So we're going to get into now why. So if you're wondering, like part of this experience right now, this little mini workshop is about understanding why slowing down actually allows us to be more creative, to heal faster, and to have access to your brilliance. So I was showing this to my adolescent tutelages since I quit teaching. I got to work with some middle schoolers, and this really helped them understand, because we're talking about meditation, and I got to teach them some things about the brain. So when you think about being in this parasympathetic state, P for peace, peaceful state, meditation, look at what happens. The heart rate decreases, the respiratory rate decreases, our blood pressure decreases, cardiovascular is there's synchronization. And this right here, cardiovascular synchronization, it's like coherence. And we can see that it is responding or correlating to increased alpha waves. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. So we'll talk about the waves in our brain, but just recognizing that there's some coherence between the heart and the brain. And when there is coherence between those electromagnetic waves, that's when you're in the flow state. That's when you're in creativity land. That's when you're connected to that source that's higher to yourself, infinite intelligence, God, whatever it is that you relate to that's bigger than yourself. So that's the main thing that I wanted us to visually see, is that as we become more peaceful in a parasympathetic state, the alpha waves increase, and that's when we feel calm but alert. So as we move over to the sympathetic state, this is where alpha waves are decreasing and beta waves are increasing. And I'll explain what that means coming up. But the mental focus decreases, your cognition decreases, the limbic system increases. That's part of like protection, like you're gearing up to protect yourself from something, and your memory decreases. So the sympathetic say, this is what Jen was experiencing as that teacher. My foggy brain, my memory was crap. I would forget something from the day before. And like, even sometimes friends would be like, remember last year we did this thing? And I really had to spend a long time like trying to remember this experience that was actually important to me. Okay. Any questions about this? Or what does this make you think of?
This is a beautiful illustration. Wow.
Right?
Oh,
the gem.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll give a reference to it. Okay, so something that I wanted to share, we get to practice some things together. So as we move into the second part of our trip today, we're going to do some simple free practices. And one of them is going to be, what is it going to be? You guys already know, what's a way that you can slow yourself down on purpose?
Breathing.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, student Danielle. So breathing, and you see this yellow nerve coming from behind the ear, that vagus nerve, vagus means wandering. So it really wanders through your thoracic and abdominal cavities, but follow where it goes. It goes down the airways. It's around the heart and the lungs, and it goes down into the stomach. It's around, innervates the colon, and even some muscles in our neck and upper shoulders. So that's why those get tight when we're stressed out. So when we breathe, the breath follows a pathway that stimulates this vagus nerve. There's a plexus, and if you can see like between the liver and the stomach, that where those yellow nerves kind of cross, that's your solar plexus, but it's also where the nerves, there's a bundle of nerves there. And if we can get the diaphragm, which is underneath your lungs, to push down that area, it stimulates that nerve plexus. So when we breathe slow and deep belly breath, we're actually allowing that vagus nerve to be stimulated according to a specific recipe. And you guys know, when I'm calm, how am I breathing? Slow or fast? Deep or shallow? You guys all know those things, right? So like, if I want to be in control of my state, what am I going to do? What are you guys going to do if you want to slow down your state?
Breathe deep and slow.
Thank you. Absolutely. That's it. Okay. I know, right? If we were in the classroom, it'd be way more fun. I'd probably be bouncing all around. Okay, here we are. This is fun. Look at this. So this is the connection I wanted to make for us. And maybe you're as geeked out as I am, or maybe not. But here it is: beta, alpha, theta, delta, different brain waves. And we see the up, down, and the frequency with which these are expressing in your brain. This is an indicator of the energy available to your brain. And also, this correlates to parasympathetic and sympathetic states. So as you look at the descriptions towards the left, the beta associated with stress, fear, anger, irritability, weakened health, nervousness, depression, anxiety. But beta is not all bad. That's the negative aspects of beta. So there's really 3 levels of beta. That's high beta. The mid and lower levels of beta, that's where rational, logical thinking occurs, planning can happen. So beta in general, if we're in a healthy state of beta, that's fine. That's when I use to do some math problems or to plan out my calendar. One below, alpha. This is the one, guys. A for alpha, A for number 1, the A team, whatever you want to do, remind yourself, this is the state we're going for. Meditation and relaxation. This is where we move from that beta, sympathetic, stressed out state to our parasympathetic, peaceful state. And that's what we're longing for. That's where we want to spend more of our time. So anything we do during the day, morning or evening, that's going to get us into the alpha state. Shazam, bam, that's what you want. That's where you're going to have the ability to learn, have better memory, feel that piece of that tranquility and calmness, which allows you to focus on a bigger picture, have access to more opportunities, like Jane was saying earlier. And really, to me, this is the spiritual, like this is the scientific representation or evidence that would correlate to me to when I'm feeling connected to my source, my God, or whatever it is that you relate to as far as that which is greater than you. That's the alpha state and the theta state. Theta is right below alpha. So theta is like lucid dreaming before you fall asleep. That's that type of consciousness. And then delta would be the sleeping consciousness. So alpha is where we're relaxed, but not so relaxed that we want to fall asleep. We're relaxed and alert. So that is the key. Questions here? Anybody? Who's got a question? Okay, moving on. So when we think about accessing that alpha state, there's a couple of things. There's a couple of different perspectives we can take on. You can just think about it like purely physical. When I slow down my breath, I'm going to get into a more relaxed, alert state, and I'll have access to creativity and problem solving. Or you can think of it as outer and inner mind. So outer is, in our mind, there's 2 processes. The outer version, which is processing the information in that analytical and rational thinking way, the ego personality, that's like the beta version. Inner awareness is, the inner mind is dealing with our awareness, our spiritual self, higher consciousness, and the access to that like infinite intelligence where anything is possible. And so that relates to the alpha brainwave. So this is taken from a shamanic point of view. So ancient spiritual leaders that were able to assess people and see how disconnected they might be from their inner mind. And they would lead them back to their inner mind because that's where their guidance really is. Okay, so learning about the nervous system, what do you do already to manage stress? What are some things you could do? So thinking about ways that you slow down. What are some things that you already do or could do? And you could put it in the chat or you could say it. But I think you guys are chatting.
I will, to slow down, I like to either do breathing or journal and write down my thoughts.
Awesome. Thank you, Nisha. Absolutely. Meditate, I see. Memory and ability to focus. Yes. Thank you, Donna. Read, cup of coffee, learn. Absolutely. Thank you, Shannon. That's like you guys wrote this right along with me. You know, our consciousnesses that are all connected. You guys already know everything I'm going to say. I have a hard time keeping consistent practice of meditation. Absolutely. You're not the only one, Danielle. We get to talk about that.
Well, believe it or not,
Yes.
even for me to, I do my power walks. That to me, even though I'm active, it slows me down in my brain because I'm thinking, I'm out in nature, I'm, getting the blood pumping, and I'm not busy doing other distractive stuff. So that's
Awesome.
one way that works for me.
100%. Thank you, Donna, for bringing that up, because that is one of the things that from my research and learning that came up, rhythm, like having that sense of rhythm. It could be like even people that are running. That was a thing for me. I think that's what saved me through a lot of my teaching was I was a runner. And so that would help regulate my nervous system, but I didn't know that that's what it was doing. But it's that the steps, right? The rhythm of the steps, the rhythm of our breathing, the rhythm of dancing, all of those modalities are regulating the nervous system. So we think about cultures and those that like dance together, dance around the fire, or sing or chant. All of those ways are taking advantage of the rhythm that helps the nervous system realize that it can be relaxed and is regulated. It's in that calm, relaxed state. So brilliant. Okay.
One more thing.
Yeah.
You talked about all this rhythm, and then she mentioned going outside. So when I go outside, I understand that we're energetic beings and we're connected to everything. But the point is, when I go outside, nature reflects to me the natural rhythm of transformational process. Nature doesn't speed up. No, the sun takes the same amount of time to rise and fall. Nature doesn't speed up. It has a natural rhythm of growth and restoration. And when you go outside, we're energy. We're connected whether we know it or not. So you connect to that, and it slows you down because it doesn't speed up. It is what it is. And it's a healthy, just like you said, it has a rhythmical flow. And the second you go outside, you become a part of that. And you just, you embrace it energetically, and it just fills every cell of you. And every cell is happy because it knows what it's getting, And so
Awesome.
natural. And it's the way it was created. So.
Absolutely. If you guys know me, that's my favorite way to get regulated is to be out in nature, even just watching nature. The chipmunks, I could watch them for hours. And it's regulating, right? Even watching the chickens right in the field, like the rhythm of nature is natural. Even squirrels, right? They have their own rhythm, but that's how they should be. That squirrel should be like that, bouncing all around and distracted here and there, but that is what's survival to them, right? And just watching an animal doing its natural thing is soothing to me. So that's awesome. Okay, so you guys hit the nail square on the head, and I'm sure more things are coming up to you. So I'm going to list some things. We're going to practice some breathing because that's one of my favorite things to do with people. I think it's even more powerful when we breathe and meditate together. So I'm going to guide us through some breathing. But what else? I would love to hear any other, just rattle them off. Anything else? I got go outside, meditating, reading, the cup of tea, cup of coffee, breathing, reading, journaling, meditation. What else? Anything else? Yeah, like Julie, do you have anything to say, Julie? You could unmute yourself. That's okay.
Golf?
Yes, and we can hear you.
Oh, it says mute, so sorry.
Good job.
When I came on time, Rick was here.
Oh, good.
Yes.
What is the way that you like to slow down?
Doing something I like.
Yes. And what do you like to do?
Golf.
Yes. And for golf, you get to be outside. You're breathing air that is fresh. You've got sunshine, which that's like heliotherapy, which is another thing. You've got grounding going on near the trees. So doing what you love, there's a reason why we love it, right? And it probably gets us into that flow state. So we pay attention to those things. And each of us could have a different way to get into the flow state. Okay. Now we're going to move on. I'll just move it back. Okay. So what are the ways and what are you guys going to do? One more plug for the alpha state. I think I'll start with this slide, which is our next one anyways. It's lovely. Okay. Here we go. One, please. Okay. So back into that, which is totally fine. That's, I might have done that on accident. Bear with me, kids. This was definitely the normal when I was teaching. Okay, here we are. So energy, so things that are going to help us regulate. Energy pillars, so we got sleep, nutrition, movement, play and relaxation, nature, connection to that, which is greater. And the end goal for all of these things, and all these things can play a role in regulating our nervous system or getting us into a peaceful state or slowing down, is to increase the gap between the stimulus from the outside world or even our inside thoughts and our response to them. So we shift from reacting out of reflexes or past experience or ways that I have always responded, like patterns that might not be advantageous. And we shift into responding. This is where I'm conscious. I'm choosing from that state of connection with my higher self, with God, and from that place, making decisions. So that's the gift. Awareness leads to slowing down. When I'm aware that there's a trigger in me, if I can take a break, pause, take some breaths, then I have the agency to respond instead of react. So that's the huge thing there. Okay, moving ahead. Let's see. Yay, this sucker sums it up. And this from Andrew Merle. He's really into the flow state or the zone, but I love the way he said this. So alpha is characterized by being clear-headed, present, fully in the moment. Alpha waves create a sense of peace and well-being in your mind and body. When people are in this state, they seem to exude charisma as their mind focuses only on the here and now. This is also the state when athletes and other performers are at their best. It's also known as being in the zone or the flow state. So unsurprisingly, alpha brainwaves have been shown to boost creativity and resilience and reduce anxiety and depression. When your mind is free, peak performance and enjoyment is naturally achieved. So I feel like, if you guys feel like I do, alpha state is the natural state that we are meant to be in as humans, but our culture has driven us into the beta state, but that's okay. We're going to come back into the alpha state where we get to enjoy life, we're present in the moment, and we have the ability to perform at our peak. Okay, brilliant. We love you. All right, so here you go. You guys listed probably all of these: meditation, mindfulness, breath work, nature. The Shinran-yoku is forest bathing, this Japanese art of spending time in nature, rhythm, which we talked about. And then there's vibration too, binaural beats, isochronic tones. Binaural beats are something you've probably heard of them maybe. And you have to use earphones, but two different tones are playing. And then the difference between those hertz, the frequency between them, is what your brain will register. So if they play two tones that are like 8 hertz apart, that 8 hertz falls in the alpha state range. And so that music would help you get into the flow state or the alpha state. And then being in the flow state, this is like play, you guys. Like Dr. Brene Brown helped us see that play is actually one of the guideposts for living wholeheartedly. It's what wholeheartedly people do. They actually play. And this is where, one of you already mentioned it, you lose track of time. You don't care what you look like. You are in the zone, paying attention. You have access to all of your abilities. And that's like the flow state. And many things you can think about that for yourself. When am I in the flow state? And it could be when you're playing a game, it could be when you're playing golf or riding your horse or in nature, could be when you're reading. So that's super awesome. And then there's visualization and heart rate variability. We talked about that a little bit, this idea of coherence. So when we measure the heart rate variability, that's the ability of the heart basically to adapt to the situations. And the more variability you have, it's correlated to better health. And that actually, when the heart rate variability goes up, so that's correlated to the alpha state. So that's pretty awesome. That's science that shows when the heart and the mind are in coherence, you're in the flow state. Awesome. And then the last one, appreciation and awe. That's my favorite, you guys. Appreciation and awe. So as we wrap up and think about these free ways that you get to improve your sense of the alpha state, we get to do some together before we finish. You ready? Yay. Of course you are. Okay, so we're going to relax in our chair. And if you are comfortable closing your eyes, feel free to close your eyes. I always do. And science has shown it only takes 2 minutes of deep diaphragmatic breath to shift us into a state of alpha. So as you get comfortable, you can start to feel your body pressing against the furniture. Maybe your feet are on the ground. You start to maybe notice the temperature of the air on your face. You can feel the clothes on your skin. You just naturally begin to breathe a little deeper, pulling the air into the lower parts of your lungs and slowing down your breath. Letting your exhale be maybe a little longer and slower than your inhale. Just let it naturally get longer and slower. And any thoughts that come up, totally fine. It's normal. You just notice the thoughts and then go back to the sensation of your breath. Comfortably long and slow. And just having that appreciation for the stillness, the quiet. Before we end here, just thinking about what you would like to implement. What would be a gift to you to help slow you down today? What one small thing might you try or do to bring about some more peace and calm today? And then just gently feeling your body in your chair again. Notice your breath. And then opening your eyes when you're comfortable too. And I would love to hear as we close out, what is one little thing you would like to do today to help you slow down? I love that, Jane. Focusing on one task at a time. Wonderful. Isn't that great? Because you don't have to do anything different. You don't have to add anything in. You're just going to do the things you're already going to do. One thing at a time. And a walk. I love that. Yes. Even if it's 5 minutes. Take a nap. I love that. Lessons from our cats. Yes. Sipping tea. Absolutely. There's all meditations built around sipping tea. Well, I'm inspired by all of you and can't wait to connect with you further. We get to support each other on the journey to slowing down. It's not a switch that we flip. We get to do it step by step. Deep breathing outside. Yes. Shinrin Yoku Forest Bathe. I'm here to support you. As always, you get free discovery sessions. So you might as well take advantage. Otherwise, we get to give grace to ourselves and give that love. John Kabat-Zinn, what kind of a gift is it to just sit quietly by yourself for a time? That's it. So thankful for all of you. And I will end this recording and we will move forward.